Coming up on Midco Motorsports, it was a big week for big shows. From the ASCS Sprint Cars in Rapid City to the World of Outlaws late models in Grand Forks. We've got a complete recap of all the most thrilling action on the regional racing scene. Rusty Wallace helped run the show at River City Speedway, but before that, Midco SN's Brian Shawn got a chance to go one-on-one with the NASCAR Hall of Famer. All that, plus a look at some of the key components for late model setup in another edition of Shop Talk. The green flag drops now. Double the fun out west. How's everybody doing? I'm Jay Elson, and this is Midco Motorsports. The Lucas Oil American Sprint Car Series rolled into Rapid City last week for not one, but two shows at Black Hills Speedway. The Rushmore Rumble is this week's A feature. Johnny Herrera had won each of the last three ASCS races at BHS, and he hoped to keep that streak alive Friday. Get his chance following the Wissota Superstock feature. That one was all Colton Young. The Blackhawk South Dakota native drove to the lead from his number 2 starting spot in the 48K, was never challenged. Young coast to his second win in as many weeks.
Heat race went pretty good. We were a little tight and kind of watched the track. Sprint cars blew it off. Kind of got a cushion up top and got lucky, drew the outside pole, and I didn't really touch the car, just kind of did my thing, loosened it up a little bit, and went out and they ran pretty good.
ASCS points leader Sam Haferteep Jr. led the field to green on Friday, but life would get much more difficult once he hit lap traffic. Less than 10 laps in, Blake Hans slides into the top spot, but not for long as Haferteep counters out of turn 2. Moments later, Hahn back for more, almost gets him again, but a back marker gets in the way. Mechanical issues ended Hahn's night shortly thereafter. With that, Aaron Reutzel took over the runner-up position, but he'd take a run at number 1 with 2 laps to go. The 87 completes the pass in turn 4, but Haferteep again has the answer. And what else can you say? It was just his night. Haferteep goes on to pick up his 10th win of the year.
You know, lap traffic was a little tough a few times. Guys caught up to me in lap traffic. Trying to take it easy, not rush anything, but there at the end, once they got to us, we kind of knew we had to go and finally took back off and set sail and got the victory tonight.
14 cars made up the night's Midwest Modifieds feature. Hermosa, South Dakota's Kyle Harkin charged from 9th to take control within the first few laps, but he'd get some company with just a couple to go. Huron's Cole Searing gets a good run off the bottom, and Harkin can't hold him off. Searing caps a solid night, following up his second-place finish in the Super Stocks with a win in the Midwest Mods. Less than 24 hours later, it was time for round 2, and that spelled redemption for Kyle Harkin. For the second straight night, he makes a big jump off the start. The difference is, this time, he makes it stick. Harkin leads all 12 laps to snap a string of 2 straight runner-up finishes.
The last couple weeks I've been struggling with setups and stuff, and it's good to finally not place second. It's good to get a win.
Next up was the night's main event, part 2 of the Rushmore Rumble. We pick it up on lap 11. Battle begins between front row starters Matt Covington and Aaron Reutzel. The 87 throws the slider here, but he can't quite finish the job. Different story next time around. Reutzel takes over the lead. Lap 15 now. Trouble nearly finds Reutzel. 3 cars tangled just in front of him, but Reutzel somehow manages to avoid the mess. That was huge because after that, it was smooth sailing. Reutzel closes it out for his 5th win of the year and pulls within 38 points of Haferteep in the standings.
You know, last night we were as fast. You know, I think we had the car to win last night too. I passed him once, but I had to do such a bonsai move. I slid out of the groove. You know, once the rubber lays down, it's pretty hard to pass tonight. It was multi-grooves, really able to get through lap traffic good, able to race with everyone good, so definitely the racetrack.
Late models were in the spotlight at both Brown County and River City Speedways last week. We'll show you those highlights next. For the first time in its 12-year history, the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series, one of the top sanctioning bodies of its kind, made a stop in South Dakota. Brown County Speedway welcomed the circuit Tuesday night for the Bullet Sportswear Shootout, which featured a 50-lap, $10,000 to win main event. To Aberdeen we go. Great crowd on hand for this one, and they'd get to see a good fight at the front of the Super Stocks feature. The 4-car driven by Casey Hansen goes a couple of rounds with the 155 of Nick Guthmiller, but it's Guthmiller that settles it with 16 to go. He'd have to protect that lead later on. Brian Bernatus makes a push over the final few laps, but Guthmiller equal to the task again. He holds on for his first win of the year at his hometown track, breaking a string of some rough luck.
We've been struggling with fuel pressure issues all year, and we fixed that this week, so hopefully we're got that monkey off our backs now.
Then it was time for the real fireworks. 50 laps for the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. Great 2-horse battle between Tim McCready and defending champ Scott Bloomquist. McCready trying to hold on to the top spot in traffic, but a slower car opens the door for Bloomquist. Lap 33, the 39 answers. McCready rides the bottom to retake the lead, but he just could not hold on. A couple trips later, Bloomquist slingshots around him again, and that one would seal it. The 53-year-old Bloomquist closes it out from there, recording his 6th win of the year, while McCready settled for 3rd.
Just kind of stayed in tow, waited for the bottom to clean off a little bit, and took a charge on the top, and then really got a good rhythm going up high. You know, the track was really awesome. You could race all over it tonight.
The World of Outlaws late models headlined Friday's show at River Cities. First, though, the A-Mods. RCS late model points leader Dustin Strand among those in the field. And here he is working past Lance Schill for 2nd on lap 6. Fast forward to the white flag now. Strand looking to pick off the leader, Ward Imrie, and he does. Strand steals it, beating Imrie to the line by a mere .185 seconds.
Imrie was really good, and I didn't know if we were going to be able to catch him. I was thinking we were probably going to need a yellow to make it happen, and we didn't get one, but we got in the lap cars, and that kind of jumbled them up just enough to give us a shot, and it worked out in our favor.
Crazy night for NOSA Sprints leader Austin Pierce. The 2A had the lead for a lap 4 restart. Thomas Kennedy, though, gets a great jump on the inside to take it away, but he makes contact with Pierce on the backstretch and spins out because of it. Kennedy, who recorded the fastest lap all season at RCS earlier, done for the night. Pierce would follow suit a short time later. He runs into a back marker and would be sent to the back of the field for the restart. 22nd, amazingly, he'd come back to finish 3rd. Meanwhile, all the misfortune up front opened the door for Jade Hastings, and the 19-year-old makes the most of it. He goes on to notch his first ever win at River Cities.
We had a tough start to the season. We just put it together a new car. We raced 4 races on it, and we've won 2 of them. So that must be a good thing, I guess.
With a rain shower moving through Grand Forks just before racing began, there was plenty of moisture on the track, and that created one of the fastest nights in RCS history for those World of Outlaws late models. Shane Clanton came into the night 3rd in the points, and the driver out of Zebulon, Georgia, was clearly the class of the field. He dominates from start to finish, leading all 50 laps for his first career win at the Bull Ring, and the 4th of the season with the World of Outlaws. The Grand Marshal for Friday's festivities in Grand Forks was a guy every race fan will recognize. Find out what life is like now for NASCAR Hall of Famer Rusty Wallace after this. Rusty Wallace started his career in NASCAR by claiming Rookie of the Year honors in 1984, and things really snowballed from there. Wallace went on to claim at least 1 victory in 16 consecutive seasons, a run that helped him reach 8th place in the sport's all-time wins list. Midco SN's Brian Shawn got a chance to sit down with the Hall of Famer Friday in Grand Forks for a very special edition of Inside Track.
All right, thanks so much. Here at Acme Tools in their corporate office, and Rusty Wallace kind enough to spend a few moments with us. And Rusty Wallace, the 1984 NASCAR Rookie of the Year, 55 career wins, and a 2013 inductee into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And Rusty, how cool is it for you to come back to events like this and get back to the grassroots part of racing on some of these smaller dirt tracks?
It is really cool for me. In fact, when I got picked up from the airport, we were talking about short track racing. I said, hey, this is where I started, at tracks like this. I cut my teeth on them back in the Midwest, and it got me into NASCAR. So I'm really happy to come back and watch some of the short track racing and get to see some of the fans that probably used to pull for that number 2 car that I drove for so long.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but when you look back, it has been a few years now since you retired, Rusty. And I know it's got to be hard not to be behind the wheel anymore. How long did it take you to really get used to that?
Well, I can tell you there's probably not a day in my career that goes by where I don't think about the car still. I mean, there's a lot of times I'm like, man, I can't believe I'm not driving that 2 car. I feel great. I love driving still, whether I'm just practicing my son's car or doing some other special races that I do occasionally. But man, I think about that 2 car all the time. When it's out there and I see that Miller Lite car going around, I'm like, man, put me in for Bristol, or put me in for Richmond, or put me in for Martinsville, the shorter tracks where I've always done real good, and the road courses and stuff like that. But I can honestly say when it was all said and done in the career, that all the tracks treated me pretty good. Daytona and Talladega beat me up pretty hard, and then I kind of came out of that at the end of my career and got better and had good runs there. But I won a lot of short track races in NASCAR, and people always said, how did you do that? And I said, it's because all those short tracks I started my career out with, that's what got me going.
That's really cool too. And you're still very much plugged in with racing. Between motivational speaking you're doing, you still got some race teams, you got some car dealerships, and you're going around and still doing the broadcasting thing. You know, you got your hands on a lot of different stuff. So you're still pretty plugged into what's going on.
Well, I go to 21 of the races I'll be at this year, all the big ones. I work for Motor Racing Network. I'm their color radio guy, covering the Daytona 500, covering, say, Phoenix and Martinsville. All the tracks that International Speedway Corporation owns, I announce at. And so, yeah, with 21 of them and all the big ones, I pretty well know what's going on out there in NASCAR. They really can't slide anything past me. I pretty well got them covered what's going on, but I love it. I still really get real excited going to the big NASCAR races and never get tired of it.
I'm sure. And now I know there's been maybe some concerns. Where is racing going? And some of the concerns about sponsorship dollars and fans, and where's it going to go in the future? In your opinion, you're around it enough. What is the current state of racing in general? And where do you think it's going to go in the future?
Well, look, there's no doubt that it lost some momentum. There's no doubt about that. Lost a lot of fans when the 2008 crisis happened. And then the change of the car, they went to what they call the car tomorrow, and a lot of people didn't like that particular design of car. And to be quite honest, a bunch of us started retiring. Dale Earnhardt lost his life. I retired. Dale Jarrett retired. Terry Labonte, Bobby Labonte, guys like that, hung their hat up and said, that's it. And now of late, we got Dale Jr., we got Tony Stewart. But just about the time I say that, you got Kyle Larson coming on, you got Bill Elliott's son coming on, you've got Ryan Blaney's been doing really well. A lot of new young drivers coming up faster than I thought they'd come up. So I think the health of the sport is really good. I haven't seen any decline in attendance this year from last year. In fact, it's coming up a little bit. But NASCAR's got their hand on it. They really are planning ahead, and everybody realizes that things got to change. And they all realize that, the stars of yesterday are gone, and the new ones are coming up. And I do too. Sometimes it's hard to take for a guy like me, but it's happening.
And one thing that you got into a little bit too, Iowa Speedway, was designing racetracks. And I was actually there just last year when I went to the Knoxville Nationals. I stopped by Iowa Speedway. I was like, wow, how cool is this place? How fun was that part of it for you?
That was probably one of the highlights of my career, building that racetrack, because I got a phone call from a group of investors that said, hey, we want to build a short track in Iowa. And I said, why'd you choose me? And they said, because you won more short track races in NASCAR than anybody. I said, okay, that's a good reason. So they gave me the money. We spent a lot of money building the racetrack, and it turned out fantastic. And they liked it so much that NASCAR ended up buying it from the original owners. So now NASCAR itself owns the track, and they're putting really good races on. In fact, the IndyCar race was just last weekend, and Elio Castroneves won the event. He hasn't won in 3 years, but he was able to win at Iowa. So he's always been a big Iowa Speedway lover, but he's a bigger lover of it now.
Absolutely. Well, we thanks so much for taking a few minutes with us, Rusty, and being up here. And hopefully we'll see you down the road back here again sometime.
Well, thank you very much. I just want to thank Acme Tools for having me here today, and Jet Tool. Jet Tool's a sponsor on my son's short track car. And we're having a fantastic year with that car this year. We've had great finishes. The last time we ran was a big win up in Indiana the other day. So Steve's doing great, Jet Tools is doing great. But I want to thank Acme for bringing me out here and get to see some of these grassroots fans that I haven't seen in a long time.
All right, thanks so much.
Thanks,
we'll catch with you down the road.
Appreciate it. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Brian. Well, coming up, Mark Dobmeyer beefs up at Knoxville. We'll explain exactly what that means when we come back. With its top two drivers, Ian Madsen and Brian Brown, electing to try their luck at the 34th Kings Royal, the podium was wide open for Marion County Fair Night at Knoxville Raceway. That was especially true in that 410 class, where those that showed had combined for just one win all season. Lots of usual suspects in the 360 field, including Kelvin Landis and Clint Garner. Lap 7, Landis takes advantage of a mistake by Tyler Gronendijk, and the 70 gets the lead in turn 4. 5 circuits later, though, here comes Garner, the points leader, beats Landis into turn 3, and it was all 40 from there. Garner collects his 4th trophy of 2017 and the 32nd for his career. Wild ride at the start of the night's 410 feature. Austin McCarroll can't get his car to stick, and it leads to a hard tumble in turn 1. Fortunately, McCarroll was able to walk away from that uninjured. On the restart, Mark Dobmeyer gets a great jump from the outside of row 1, and he would never look back. Dynamite dominates, picking up the victory in just his 2nd appearance of the year at Knoxville. That netted him $4,000 plus half a cow. No word on whether it was that cow. The NOSA Sprints were the headliner, and they did not disappoint. Wade Nygaard in particular came to put on a show. Lap 3, check out the move here. Nygaard threads the needle on the outside, getting past both Jade Hastings and Austin Pierce. He didn't stop there. Moments later, Nygaard with the old 2-wheel salute as he heads down the front stretch. It actually allowed Pierce to steal the lead briefly, but the 9 car takes it right back. 19 to go. Thomas Kennedy enters the fray. The 21K follows Nygaard's line to jump ahead of Pierce for 2nd. He'd get a good shot at Nygaard 8 trips later, but the 9 car's groove proves to be just a little bit better. Kennedy stayed on his heels the rest of the way, but he was not able to steal it. The defending NOSA champ finishes the job, claiming his first feature in the month of July.
I thought, oh no, he found the rubber first, and then I just stayed in it in the middle, and we were beating and banging on each other, and I'm glad neither one of us spun out because that was pretty close. We were banging on each other pretty hard.
Coming up, another stop in the shop. Dustin Strand will cover some of the key components for late model setup next. Things are always changing in dirt track racing, particularly with the tracks themselves. That's what makes setup such a never-ending battle. Brian Shaw, Chris Schierick, and Dustin Strand look at some of the key components for that in this week's Shop Talk.
All right, back for more Shop Talk and back in the big, beautiful establishment here that Dustin Strand owns and operates. Has a lot of different race cars actually in this shop. Here's his late model behind us. And Chris, one thing I know that you and I have talked about in the past is racing setups from the beginning of the night to the end of the night. And for a late model, that's the same deal. No matter what's going on, whether the track is wet or dry, you got to make adjustments, right?
Yep, and I was going to ask you that, Dustin. So in the hot laps, usually the track is typically wetter. It might be a little slick. Then throughout the heats, it gets a little tacky or a little, maybe a little drier, but it's still a little tacky. Then the feature time, it's typically a dry, slick racetrack. Can you kind of go over setup-wise, beginning of the night till the end of the night?
Well, one of the biggest, easiest tuning devices we have would be stagger in the race cars. We probably run about 1 inch of stagger in the front of the car and right around 4 in the back. And that's probably the easiest thing to change from muddy to slick. Maybe if it's really muddy, you might start out with 5 inches of stagger at the beginning of the night and be down to 3.5 at the end of the night. There's a pretty noticeable change in how the car handles just by bolting on different tires. So I mean, that's probably the easiest adjustment you can make. We also have a few adjustments inside the car. We have a handle next to the steering wheel. We can actually turn more front or rear brake in the car. So for hot laps or heat race, when it's really muddy, we'll have all rear brake in the car. And we even have a switch to shut the right front brake off. So we have 3-wheel brakes. So when you hit the brakes, it helps the car turn as well. So that's kind of more of a crutch, but you get on a place like Grand Forks where there's a lot of traction, and you need all the help you can get to make the car turn.
Yeah.
You know, other things, we mess around with fuel load a lot. Beginning of the night, we'll maybe only start out with 10 to 15 gallons in the cell, just to have less for a percentage, the same deal to help the car turn. And then by the end of the night, if it's really slippery, we might have up to 20 or 25 gallons in the car to gain more rear traction. And of course, these cars are pretty complicated underneath. We have a 4-bar rear suspension and a Panhard bar, or J bar as we call it. And that's probably one of the other main tuning devices. Raise and lower your J bar. When it's heavy in the beginning of the night, you got it up, and as it gets drier, you move that J bar down to increase side bite in the car. So I mean, there's a lot of different things that a guy can do. Shocks and springs are a huge part of it, and yeah, it's just you can guess wrong and be a hero or a zero in a hurry.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all kind of ties in when you're talking about the fuel load, you're talking about the stagger. I get that. That's some sprint car stuff. That's sprint car talk. So I can get that. We're on the same page there.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff probably transfers through all the classes, you know, but just a little different, maybe bar angles. I mean, sprint car is a little different on the rear suspension, where these are 4-bar, and you know, you guys got the torsion bars and whatever. So
absolutely.
Well, the Wayzata national champion last year, that doesn't mean you're not still learning, right? You're always trying to pick up new tricks and new ways of doing things, right?
Oh yeah, every night we're learning. I mean, it took us a long time to get this late model program or where we're at, you know. When we first started out, we were running okay, but you know, we were probably a 4th, 5th place car, and now we're trying to get so we're contending for the first 2 or 3 spots every night. So.
All right, Dustin Strand joining us once again here for another edition of Shop Talk.
Thanks, guys. Well, that is our time for this week. We'll see you next time.